So
Did you see how I said, "Oh, okay," like I knew where that was?
Yeah, yeah.
It was very, very aggressive.
Malawi.
Malawi, the
It's-
best.
Oh, I was gotcha.
It's near Djibouti.
the
Hey, this is Matthew Harvey here with the 12 o'clock siren recording live at the 360 Broadband Studios at the Cowboy Corner on the southeast side of the downtown Leonard Square. On my left hand is James, I'm a Pasole guy, Hartley.
I am a Pasole guy. I prefer it to menudo. I will eat menudo, though.
Yeah,
You ever had it?
You turned it down today.
I did. I got nachos instead.
Because you're a Pasole guy. I said that needs to be on a t-shirt.
Yeah, we should do that.
I'm a Pasole guy.
How are you, Matthew? I forget how to do this now.
It's been a minute,
Yeah,
but we're back.
we are.
As promised,
Oh.
with somebody that we had suggested and talked to briefly personally off air, but somebody from the local area, local ties to the area, business owner in the area, Mr. Claude Spider Webb of the Garhole.
Hey, sir, how are you?
doing well, thanks.
Well, we finally made it happen. When was it that we were at the Gar Hole? It was like 6
Man.
months ago or something.
I feel like it was in the fall time,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. We interviewed 2 tons over there.
Talked to Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin in the back of the Garhole. So welcome, Spider.
Thanks for
You go-
having me. I
you-
appreciate
what do
it.
you go by, Spider or Claude or Mr. Webb? or-
Whatever, I was in education, Coach Webb,
Coach,
Spider, whatever. It's a, when your last name is Webb, Spider kind of is an easy nickname.
Absolutely.
Yep, it makes sense. How
It
many
does.
people call it? What would you say the breakdown is of what people call you?
Well, it depends on where we are. Of course, the Garhole, I'm Spider.
Okay.
I got stuck with that nickname when I was about 18.
Gotcha.
A guy named R.L. Adair.
Oh yeah,
I walked in Adair's one night.
some no name from Dallas, I'm sure.
And my buddy was tending bar there, and he said, "R.L., this is my buddy Claude Webb," and R.L. said, "Spider Webb."
Ah,
And
It
everybody
just
around
stuck.
just stuck, man. It just that's how nicknames go, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I always get the derogatory nicknames, so we'll leave mine alone.
you just name dropped Adair there, so
Yeah.
you can't just do that and not go into it.
Well,
I said a no name from Dallas. That's a well-known name from Dallas, I'm sure.
it was it's interesting. I grew up with a a dad from Central Texas, and I was being hauled to beer joints and dance halls from the time I was, in the crib.
Where in Central
And-
Texas?
Well, he's from Bosque County, a little town called Morgan near the banks of Lake Whitney.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not far from Copperell,
Okay.
and Cranfell's Gap and those little towns over there. And so I was being indoctrinated into the beer joint scene at a young age and grew up. And some sage advice he gave me when I was a teenager was, "Son, one of these days you got to find your own beer joint."
And you have.
And
you probably
so
found a few.
when I was 18, it was legal to drink in Texas.
Yeah.
So I walked into Adair's one night. I had a friend took a job there, and RL and Lois had just bought it from his mom and dad, and so they just started running it. The old Adair's on Cedar Springs,
Mm-hmm.
and boy, for the next many years, it seemed like we were there 5, 6, 7 nights a week, and became close friends. And in fact, when he passed away at a young age, I was a pallbearer.
Mm.
His wife Lois is still a close friend, and she's a key advisor to the Garhole. I will tell you that, because
I
she's
can
got
imagine.
a world of experience.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
worse consultants to have.
They moved from Cedar Springs to Deep Ellum in the early '80s, and RL had a heart attack and died shortly thereafter.
Mm.
And she just turned that thing into one of the best places in Dallas at the time. I mean, it's still a great place. Joel, the owner now, does a great job. But Lois, she added live music, expanded the menu, and just turned it into a pretty cool place. Found Jack Ingram, which didn't hurt.
Right. Yeah.
And or I'd say he found her. He started playing there, but she's it spawned a bunch of really good artists. Matt Hillier got started there. So many other guys. So I've just always had close ties to those guys, and just saw her a month or so ago. She's in Waco now.
Okay. You said she's not involved anymore?
No, she sold it, and Joel took it over. He worked for Lois for a while, and now she's in a. It's an assisted living place, but she's great. I mean, she's physically fantastic.
Good.
And living in Waco.
Kind of the Mitzi Shore of the Dallas, Texas country scene.
Yeah, she's a well-known lady, well loved.
I want to say my wife saw Randy Rogers there in the early days.
That's
you
awesome.
ever had an early artist experience there?
No, I don't think so. Pushrod.
Yeah,
Saw
that's true.
Pushrod there.
I was there for that one.
Yeah.
Or one of them anyway. Yeah, that's a good little spot. We kind of jumped into it there. Claude Webb from originally from Dallas.
Yep, grew up there.
Grew up in Dallas anyway. What ties you to this area? I know you know a lot of folks that we know in Leonard in particular, but give us some of your growing up history and your connection.
Well, when I was in high school in East Dallas, Coach asked me to go on a recruiting trip to Austin College, and thinking it was in Austin, we talked to the counselor to get out of school for a couple of days. We thought, what could be better than 3 days in Austin? And then we found out that it was in Sherman.
You know what? I had
3 days in Sherman's a different experience.
You know what? I had the same confusion in junior high. I'm pretty sure.
But we wound up going because we'd already gotten permission to be out of school for a few days. We took the trip and went to Sherman, Texas, and had the time of our lives and met some of the best people we'd ever know. And by the end of the weekend, I made up my mind I was going to go to AC and wound up in Sherman. And there I became close friends with guys from Leonard, Honey Grove, towns all around, this north central Texas area. And, a lot of ties I was telling you about earlier. But so that's kind of been my connection. And we've lived in the Sherman-Denison area now since the 90s.
Okay.
So I'm a 30-minute drive from here. So it's close.
You mentioned education. You were a coach.
I was. The last 17 years, I was a athletic director in Melissa.
Okay.
Which is a fast-growing little town in Collin County. So it kind of gave me at least I knew where Westminster was.
Right.
You're one of the few, or were one of the few. Now a lot more people know.
Anna.
Yeah.
Otherwise known as Anna right now.
Right.
Yeah, the stadium there is named after Leonard local.
Kenny Dale Stadium.
Yes, sir.
Great guy. Good friend. Yeah.
Friend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all work together, I suppose.
17 years.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. It's neat to see Leonard names going up like that, and I don't even know if they're naming the new elementary here, but I was wondering who's that name going to be if there is one.
I'm sure there will be one.
Might just be Leonard Elementary too.
That's true. So to go back to your younger years, and you were talking about being indoctrinated to the beer joints and stuff. What was kind of the scene back then like? When did you first kind of take notice? I know your dad was dragging you around, but when did you take notice and were kind of like, man, this is not bad?
Well, I've got to admit, growing up in a family steeped in, country music, hillbilly music, and it seemed like everybody in the family played a guitar, a fiddle, a steel, whatever.
You play too?
I do play guitar, and we have a band, but I grew up around that, and of course, Dad's records were all Johnny Cash, Hank Williams, and so being a typical child of the '60s, I hated it, and I did everything I could to get away from it. And so
Rebellion.
Yeah, my concerts were ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, The Who.
Nice.
Growing up,
Deep Purple.
And the singer-songwriters of the time, Cat Stevens, James Taylor, Jackson Brown, and so I kind of separated myself from that whole culture as much as I could.
Sure.
And then there was kind of this strange time in the early '70s where suddenly, Willie and Jerry Jeff come on the scene. Country music becomes cool. I was, like I said, steeped in country music. I knew the stuff. So everybody was trading in their big bells for some Wranglers and boots. And so we got really into it. And we called it progressive country at the time.
Yeah.
What's now called Texas country or red dirt. And there were even radio stations in Dallas that played only that format.
Oh, wow. Time's a flat circle.
And bars started open. Yeah, bars started opening up all over Dallas. Faces, Whiskey River. Country music became cool again for young people.
Yeah.
And 8 Ears, fit right in that because they never changed.
Right.
They had always had
all along
a jukebox full of George Jones and Tammy and Hank. So. It was a fun time. It was a good transition. The hippies and the cowboys and everybody got together and became one. So it's pretty cool.
That is cool. So when you discovered Adair's, around what time was that?
So I started college in '73, and that fall of '73, I made my first trip there with some college friends, and then that following summer was when I strolled in there because my buddy got a job tending bar there, and
Gotcha.
so throughout the '70s, beginning like in '73, and of course that's also the same year Viva Trilingua came out.
Yep.
Which, in my mind, no record changed Texas more than that album, and of course then Lukenbach became a cool place, and
Right.
we started going there all the time and hanging out. And
Yeah, your story about that.
I'd
was
kind of like to hear
fascinating.
that a little again. So we talked about it when we were there, and I know there's been some stuff written about it, but explain how the Lukenbach thing came up.
well, the random would be a good word to describe the whole experience. We were in Eight Ears one night, and some buddies, and we were just listening to the jukebox, hanging out, and that album came up. And I'm the kind of guy, I read the liner notes, and so I said, well, they recorded that in Lukenbach. And one of my buddies said, where's that? I go, oh, it's down in South Texas by Austin. Well,
Sort of.
well, of course, I didn't know what I was talking about, to be honest. I just had read the liner notes, but an hour later, at the time, you could buy a couple of cases of beer at a beer joint and take it out.
Yeah.
And so RL, sold us a couple of cases of beer. We piled in my Jeep, and we headed south on 35 for Austin. And we got there, and I had no idea where we were going, but I was pretty sure it was west of Austin. So we turned and headed to
the
Marble
right track.
Falls. We got to Marble Falls, and then we were turning left there, heading south. And of course, it was by now, it's like 1 a.m. And we
Bad decisions creeping in.
finally found one gas station that was open with a light on, and we went in, and I said, hey, we're heading for Lukenbach. And he goes, yeah, I know where it is, but you'll never find it at night if you don't know where you're going. And that was just the challenge we needed. So we unfolded the giant map that you used back in those days, and Lukenbach wasn't even listed on it.
You can't
And
zoom in on it.
So we just took the directions he gave us, all these crazy directions like turn left at the Lutheran church and turn right where the tractor's missing a tire and blah, blah, blah. And about 4 that morning, fortunately, we just run out of beer, and we found it. And, of course, it's so different now than it was then. Back then, there was nothing there literally than the old, post office, and the dance hall was just a barn.
Yeah.
So we just crashed on some picnic tables, and next morning, the lady that ran it woke us up, and around 10 o'clock, all the old bachelor farmers started showing up from the area. All of them had German last names, and everybody started drinking beer like at 10:30 in the morning. And
Like, these are my people.
yeah, it was. And then around noon, this guy walks in with a denim shirt on and a straw hat, and I knew from the pictures that was Hondo Crouch.
Yeah.
So he came up, and we met him, and heck, that afternoon, guitars were pulled out. People were sitting around singing, and we made a lot of trips to Lukenbach back in those days, and of course, then they wrote that song,
Yeah.
and
Legitimately put it on the map.
yeah, and I'm not saying it was for the worst. I mean, because it really put Lukenbach on the map, but it changed it.
Sure.
And it wasn't quite the same after that. It became more kind of a tourist attraction.
Yeah.
Tell us about Hondo.
Well, I never had like a personal conversation with him. I was in a group of 5 or 6 people a lot of times where he would be in the group, and even times they'd hand him a guitar and he'd sing one of those Spanish songs that the old Mexican ranch hands had taught him. And we always heard about, Willie and Jerry Jeff and Guy Clark showing up, but I never saw any of those guys there when I was there. But Hondo was a pretty regular fixture back then, and just you can understand why it grew, because he was just so likable.
Yeah.
Right. He was friendly. He treated everybody well. Didn't matter, whether you were riding a Harley, driving a pickup truck, or a BMW. He was just friendly to everybody and had a story to tell. And so, yeah, and in fact, my oldest son is named Hondo.
Oh, yeah?
After Hondo
Really?
Crouch. Yeah,
Wow.
so he had quite
Also
an influence on me.
Named after the city as well.
Well, his real name is John Crouch, but he
Okay.
grew up in the Hondo area out in the country,
Okay.
So he got that nickname at UT when he was a All-American swimmer, and they
Gotcha.
called him Cowboy Hondo Crouch, the swimming cowboy, So
Wow.
So would be the linchpin, the Lukenbach linchpin, maybe?
yeah,
They
and,
kinda-
and I always say that the gar,
Obviously the song, but he was a big part of that.
yeah, and the gar hole is really just kind of like the child of Adair's and Lukenbach if they'd gotten together and had a baby.
Yeah.
Well, I think I said it because
You know-
when we visited you several months ago, it was my first time in the Gar Hole, and I said, "Man, it's got a Lukenbach vibe," and you were like, "That's what I was going for."
you lit up.
I've had folks walk in and say, "This kind of reminds me of Adair's. Have you ever been there?" And it makes me feel good. Or they'll say, "Man, this outdoor patio, I feel like I'm at Lukenbach," and I'm like, "Well, that's the goal."
Mission accomplished.
Here's
Yeah.
your
Thank
new,
you.
here's your new tagline. It's like Lukenbach and Adair's had a baby in a bank.
Yeah, yes, in a bank. Yeah, that's another key part.
So
to
it was an old bank.
one of the buildings we have where the bar is located was the First National Bank of Westminster,
Okay. Now it's the liquor bank.
and that,
Yeah.
well,
Memory
and,
bank.
and the old safe is now where we keep supplies and beer. So
Still doing its
Still,
purpose.
still guarding valuables.
it
Yeah.
is very much so.
So, what? At what point did you decide that you wanted to open something like the Gar Hole? Had it always been a dream, or you just finally found yourself retired and go, you know what, this sounds like a good plan?
He said 17 years, so I think that might have something to do with it.
Well, it goes way back farther than that. When I was in college, one of my closest friends there was from a little town outside Ardmore, and we kind of grew up with similar backgrounds. And we agreed that one day we would retire and we would open a beer joint somewhere. Of course, he went off and made his, fame and fortune. He's a banker in South Texas, and of course, I went off into education, but we never lost that dream. We kept saying, one of these days, and then in November of 19, he calls me. He was living in Bernie, Texas, if you know where that is, down in the hill country. And Danny Buck, he said, "Hey, I think I may have found a place." He said, "It's in Westminster." And I said, "Westminster? There's nothing in Westminster but Big Slicks."
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the name of the place before we bought it.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yeah, it's for sale." And so it was 8 miles from my office. So at lunch, I sped over there. Sure enough, it was all boarded up and had for sale signs on it. And next thing, he and I were talking to some buddies about possibly, helping buy the buildings. And so a group of us, most of us went to college together, or one is my best friend from high school. And we just got a bunch of folks together. We bought the one whole side of the square there in Westminster and began setting plans in place to open it up.
Cool.
What were those meetings like? Once you you'd acquired the property, what were those meetings like?
Well, like I said, it was my best friends from college, and I feel like I need to share with you that's where the Gar Hole began.
Yeah.
When I was in college, there was an old dorm called Luckett, and the Luckett was actually older than
Once
the buildings.
was a student from Luckett.
And let me tell you,
can see
man,
where this is
it was
going.
like living in the Alamo.
Okay.
I mean, there were no modern conveniences. There was one big bathroom downstairs for the whole, wing to use.
It's like barracks.
They make you take your hat off before you go in.
No, it wasn't that bad. But it didn't have any air conditioning, and most of the people that lived in the bottom floor, which we called the basement, was athletes and fraternity guys. And so it was kind of like Animal House on steroids.
Okay.
And the resident director, he wouldn't even go down there.
Okay.
We were just left alone. And so my sophomore year, we moved in, and I was talking to my buddies across the hall, and I said, "Hey, I got an idea. Let's move the beds from my room into your room, and the four of us can sleep in there, and we'll turn my room into a party room." And they were like, "That's a great idea." So we went down to Goodwill, and we got some orange shag carpet. Of course, it was the 70s, and we got some beanbag chairs, and I hauled in my PA system from our band, like 2,000 watts of power in a dorm room, and we WD-40'd the windows so girls could get in because they weren't allowed in the guys' dorms back then. And when we finished it, we called it the Gar Hole. I made a sign and put it on the door, and that room was the original Gar Hole.
That's
and it
cool.
was a 24/7. Lights never went out. Music never stopped playing. You'd walk in one day and there'd be 5 guys playing guitars and singing. The next day, the disco music would be blasting. Everybody would be dancing.
The
and,
Bee Gees.
poker nights, you name it. We had everything going on in there. It was just a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
And that's the original. That's why when you go in, it says established in 1974
There you go.
because that was the original Gar Hole.
So when y'all had those meetings after getting the real estate, were you like, well, we know what the name's going to be, or did somebody throw it out?
Well, and a version of the Gar Hole had existed since then because wherever I lived,
Okay.
some part of my house was designated as the Gar Hole, and that's
Gotcha.
where you play guitars, drank beer. As my homes got bigger and I had more room, I eventually had my own room, separate. And where we live now, the remains of the Gar Hole are still down there in that room where we used to have picking circles and
Wow,
parties
cool.
and stuff. So it never really died
That's what this room was at one point. Previous owner.
the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There used to be instruments all over the walls. I think
Yeah.
folks used to come in here and play a lot.
And there was never any question. Everybody said it's got to be called the Gar Hole. And what's funny is, the name it's a great trademark.
Yeah.
People don't forget it. They ask what it means. So it's a great segue into conversations with people. How'd you get the name?
Yeah.
We can tell the story.
sure,
And,
yeah.
and so in fact, when I graduated from Austin College, the dean of I was going to stay and get my master's and be a GA, and the dean of housing called me in and he said, I see where you signed up for your room in Luckett again. I said, yeah, I'm going to be here a 5th year, so I might as well just stay there. He goes, just go eat in the cafeteria. You put your laundry into a chute and they give it back to you all washed. He goes, well, look, I think you really need to, get out on your own and learn how to pay a light bill and, and cook your own food. And I go, well, I don't think that's a very good idea at all. He says, well,
It doesn't sound fun.
But
said, "Let me-"
but my party room.
yeah. He goes, let me put it this way. I need you in your Gar Hole to move off of my campus and get out of my dorm. And then he started smiling. I go, oh, I get it. And so he handed me a file that was about an inch thick. It had my name on it, and it said the Gar Hole. And it had all of our violations we'd committed.
Oh wow.
And he said, here, you can take this with you. And I wish I had kept that.
Oh,
man.
That
yeah.
would be a great
That'd been good
memento
decor.
from the original Gar Hole days. But so that's when we moved out. And we actually, in my grad year, we rented a house off campus, and 12 of us moved into it. And that really was the second version of the Gar Hole.
Gar Hole 2.0.
Yeah, we paid $100 a month, not each. That was $100 total to live in this 2-story
Oh my
house
gosh.
with 12 guys in it. So you can
12,
imagine how
jeez.
nice it was.
So any notable names in those picking circles back then?
Oh,
Anybody went off to pursue that?
actually, not that I can think of.
Yeah.
It was most of them became doctors and lawyers
Sure.
and
Yeah.
school administrators, and So
Knew when to put it down.
there were some, coming out of Austin College at the time, there were some, pretty good musicians, but they also, most of them were pre-med and
Yeah.
wound up going to medical school. So,
Wow.
and that's most of the guys who invested. They're businessmen, that we've been friends for 40 years. So
Yeah.
Does it feel like y'all are living the dream now? Because Matthew and I are the same way. We're always throwing around ideas for a bar, and and I would feel like if we ever acquired that, it's like we have made it.
Yeah.
well, I think
He's like, no.
I get asked that question all the time about, you're living the dream. And I think anybody will tell you, from my friends to my wife to my kids, that I've always lived the dream.
Yeah.
I've pretty
Yeah.
much, every job I've ever had, the motivation has been because it was something fun that I enjoyed. I loved working with kids, coaching, teaching. We spent a couple of years in Africa. Those were 2 awesome years doing
Where?
that. In Malawi,
Oh, okay.
in East Africa. We went over there in 1990.
You say
and
2 years or 2 weeks?
2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we spent 2 years.
Cool.
And my son Hondo was born there. He's African American.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Did you see how I said, "Oh, okay"? Like I knew where that was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very, very aggressive.
Malawi.
Malawi,
It's
the best,
Oh, I was gotcha.
It's near Djibouti.
the best reference for Malawi is that is where Madonna adopted those kids. Remember when Madonna went to Africa and
yeah.
adopted those children?
Okay.
It was in an orphanage in Malawi. Which
You had your
is-
son there?
Our oldest son Hondo was born there. Yeah.
Well,
Set off
Yeah.
a trend. She did.
yeah. No
So
doubt.
so anyway, it's a that was a fun time. But like I said,
Did you have a gar hole Africa?
actually when I
Good
was
question,
there?
Matthew.
Yeah.
Good question.
Great
Of course,
question.
I took my guitars. I take it everywhere I go. But I met some guys there, and I was the only Mzungu, which is the Chichewa word for white,
White boy.
in an African band.
Yeah.
And we played all over Malawi,
way.
and they played.
You
the
played
best-
American
they
cowboy
loved-
guitar?
They loved American rock music,
Okay.
Well, who does?
and so here we were playing before 1,200 college kids in a auditorium playing American rock music.
Was there a
What-
djembe
what-
involved
What
at
year?
all?
What year was this?
That would have been 90 to 92, and classic rock, man. They loved it.
I was just
man.
thinking of a poppy
Yeah.
band from '92.
Like Boy George.
I
or
was
something.
wanting to go with Hanson or something like that, but
Oh, we did like Grand
Just a little
Funk
bit.
Railroad.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah. We did Zeppelin. We did ZZ Top.
you said I just really wanted to be disappointed with their taste in music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really pretty cool, and they liked country music as well. But you mentioned, did they have a djembe? Well, of course, in Africa you have drums everywhere,
Sure. Yeah.
and every time we do a show, they loved it. But it would always end with like 20 to 30 minutes of native African music. And so I had to learn all these new rhythms and beats, and then
That's cool.
and the language enough to sing along with them.
Wow.
And it was a blast.
So-
It was so much fun.
This is gonna lean into my next question. Decoration in the gar hole. Do you have any African any decoration that came from there by chance?
Well,
I know y'all have a lot of stuff on the walls. I was wondering how you come about that.
Is that
Obviously,
a rhino tusk?
obviously a bunch of men, with the exception of the neon signs and stuff like that. How do you decorate a gar hole like you guys have?
well,
And is there anything from your time in Africa?
in answer to your question, yes, we brought back all kinds of things. We left everything we owned there, as
Okay.
far as clothing, shoes, because it's so hard to get it there.
Sure.
So anything of any value in America, we left, and then we brought back things that were made in Africa. Lots of carvings, some beautiful artwork, all kinds of things like that. So yes, we do have some of those things at the Gar Hole. I mentioned that over the past 40 years or so, I've just collected all kinds of random memorabilia from sports or music or our time in Africa. So all of that stuff, posters, pictures, signs, those were all things that were in the old gar holes
Right.
over the years that we just transitioned by hanging them up in there.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then what's really cool is people will come bring me things all the time.
Oh yeah.
And they'll go, hey, I found this at Canton. A guy found a poster of the 1979 Austin College football team
Yeah.
and Canton, and it's in mint condition. He buys it and brings it to me. He goes, you
That's
may
cool.
want to put this up in here. It's
That's
your
cool.
college. So
On the way to the bathroom, you got a bunch of Westminster and Anna / whatever area that is,
Right.
memorabilia and stuff, which is cool.
yeah, there's a guy in town who is the greatest scavenger of all time.
Okay.
I mean, his house is full of stuff he's found. So almost all of those pictures, the old banknotes, the drawings, he found those and gave them to us.
College?
There was a college in Westminster that it was really kind of a seminary where guys went to become ministers.
Okay.
It was 2 blocks from where we are. So yeah, those pictures, he found all those, just when somebody would like move out of a house and leave it there, he would, go through it and see if there's anything left, and he would find all kinds of stuff that I think is valuable.
Oh sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
An old letter jacket from Westminster High back in the 50s, pictures of guys that played pro baseball from Westminster.
Yeah.
And let me add, it's in Westminster.
Right.
And even though they lost their city charter 20 years ago, the people there are from Westminster.
Yeah,
And
right.
they will tell you that.
Yeah.
They're
Very
not
quickly.
from Anna.
Yeah.
And I love Anna. I got tons of good friends there. But the people from Westminster, and most of them say Westminster.
Right.
So it's a lot of pride.
It was kind of like that with Hebron too, over in Hebron, over
Yeah.
near Louisville.
Yeah. Where was I going with that? Yeah. So when you guys bought it, Westminster, I mean, it's not a metropolis by any stretch, but there wasn't much back then. was a pretty empty stretch of 121. So buying a place, what was your guys' vision at that point, and where have you come from there?
Well,
Because I know you're pretty well developed now.
you're right. There wasn't much there. There still is not a lot there.
Still not a lot,
the
but it's
area
definitely-
is growing, and
yeah.
property is beginning to sell and increasing in value. All those things, but it just fit the criteria.
Yeah.
Number one, it was in the middle of nowhere. Old buildings, had a lot of history. It had a great feel to it. It just seemed like the kind of place, like I said, it reminded me so much of walking in 8 Airs or heading down to Lukenbach, but it was in North Texas.
Yeah.
And you really can't find a lot of places like that around here.
Yeah.
So it met all the criteria.
Yeah, you usually get 2 of the 3.
Yeah.
So, but we've talked about Lukenbach and the Gar Hole and 8 Airs. Is there any particular favorite beer joints and honky tonks that you have across the state or even outside of the state that just stand out to you?
Oh yeah, I've been in a lot of them.
I'd like to hear some of those.
Back in the day in Dallas, there were so many good ones. The old Rubaiyat was a coffee house down on McKinney, where you would any given night you could walk in there and we were in high school and hear Michael Murphy or Jerry Jeff or Willis Allen Ramsey play. And so that was a local place. And then there's like the old Texas Tea House, some of those places. Go down south. We love going to the Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
Very, very cool place. I'm a big Todd Snyder guy. And he kind of got his start there. Riley's Tavern, Cheatham
Arguably the
Street.
number 1 in the state, Devil's Backbone.
It's up there, and especially now they have new ownership, and they've
I don't
really
think I've ever been.
Yeah, we got to make a
they've
trip to
really
that.
developed it, and it's a cool place. We used to make a yearly pilgrimage there. My partner at the Gar Hole, who started it with me, we'd go down there, and his name's Jet.
Okay.
And he and I were all the operations in the very beginning, and of course Riley's Tavern, Cheatham Street Warehouse. You can go down the list. There's just so many of them down there that are cool.
Yeah.
Hondo's, down in Fredericksburg is a cool place too. So
You said Michael Murphy. My parents have some acreage up in Angel Fire, and he's still playing up there a lot.
he was just in Dallas a couple of weeks
Was
ago.
he? Yeah.
Yeah. He's still, going strong, as good as ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, they saw him last summer in Angel Fire, Red River or something, and they loved it. So
He's just another one of those Oak Cliff kids. I grew up in East Dallas, but we all knew about Oak Cliff because there was Michael Murphy, Ray Wiley Hubbard, the Vaughn brothers, B.W. Stevenson. All those guys were over there making music, and they'd cross over the Trinity into the old bars over there or the coffee houses. That's how we were able to get in.
Gotcha.
They were coffee houses back then, and teenagers could get in. You just couldn't buy alcohol.
yeah.
Couldn't have Irish coffee.
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Charlie Crockett's from Oak Cliff too.
Another
So,
one. You're right.
Huh.
Yeah. I think he spent some time. Grew up in Oak Cliff, then New Orleans and the Rio Grande Valley. He kind of made that transit like his whole early childhood. It's interesting because he's got a very
That explains his look.
explains his look and his music.
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird influence there.
Yeah.
So, but
Eclectic.
he credits Oak Cliff though with his main sound. So interesting.
And
tidbit.
it's cool too that they've developed the Kessler over in Oak Cliff, because to me that's the best listening room, that in Port David's, and it's in Oak Cliff. Where all those great artists kind of came out. So
Cool deal. What do you have going now? Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, at the Gar Hole. I know you got a picking night.
right. Well, typically what we do, Monday and Tuesday we're closed. Just haven't got enough traffic yet through Westminster.
Yeah, well, that's part of it too.
To be open all day, every day. That's our goal.
Yep.
But Wednesday nights, we open at 4 in the afternoon on Wednesdays, and we have our big picking circle open to anybody that wants to come in, plug in, get it behind a mic, sing and play. It's a circus. It's fun. Thursday nights, I've found. I say found. He found me. Kenny Davenport moved here from Illinois about a year ago. I walked in one day, and 30 minutes later, we're playing guitars, and incredible singer-songwriter. So he is leading our song swap on Thursdays, and he'll invite 3 to 4 local artists to play every Thursday night. It's a lot of fun. We love. It's one of my favorite nights because we get to hear new artists writing original music and putting it on display. Fridays and Saturdays, we typically have bands coming in to play. It becomes more of a honky-tonk, loud. Hopefully, when we get our new addition open, we'll have a dance floor. And then on Sundays at noon, we do what we call the jam, the acoustic jam, another pick and circle. And then on various Sunday nights, we have ticketed shows with what we call regional artists.
Sure.
Ticketed shows with like Walt Wilkins, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Max and Heather Stalling, Matt Hillier, Jason Eady.
Saw
Courtney
Jamie
Patton.
Lynn there.
Yeah, and Jamie Lynn's going to be there on the 21st of this month. So
Okay.
She was one of our
She's great.
first acts.
That's cool.
In fact, we didn't even have a liquor license when she played the first time. It was in the pandemic.
Oh yeah.
I literally made a stage out of pallets and plywood the day she came, and she stood on that wobbly stage and did a heck of a show. And she still laughs about that original
cool.
stage.
Wow.
That's cool. How do you keep your? I mean, I guess it helps being now owner of the Gar Hole, and but how do you keep your ear to the pulse of what's coming and who's out there and stuff? I mean, obviously you're interested in it, but do you just?
I looked at your dates. You've got a lot of names on there.
Yeah. How do you get
I mean, it's
into
pretty
that?
impressive.
Well, and let me tell you, I probably get 4 to 5 emails a day from artists. And that's what's so interesting about this time in history is that a kid when he's 10 years old can go on YouTube and 30 minutes later he's playing wagon wheel.
Right.
He's learned 3 chords and he's singing along, and then he can post it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And who knows, he may get 1,000 views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 1 million.
Yeah, it was way, way, way harder, 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
You had to get a manager, or you had to, it just wasn't as easy. And so, but that also means there are 10 to 20 times as many artists vying for the same gigs that are out there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know it's a tough time because, supply and demand. There's just so many of them out there now, and they're good.
Yeah.
All of them are good, but I'm constantly, if somebody sends me something, I may not be able to book them for a show, but I'll listen.
Yeah.
And if I like them, I'll recommend them to somebody else, or I'll put them on my playlist and just kind of get into them. And people are always recommending folks to me.
Sure.
And, I love what these new guys are doing, these young guys are doing. And I just wish there were more places available for them to showcase their talent.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard.
So you're doing all that yourself?
Well, pretty much.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
Good on you.
Jet, I mentioned Jet, and he deserves a lot of the credit. He was the brains as far as the bar operations in the beginning because he'd had experience doing that.
Yeah.
And so the first year he was boots on the ground, he and I, but he had experience, and he also helps me with the booking, and like he was at Steamboat,
Okay.
this winter. He goes to Mile Zero Fest, constantly checking out new people,
Yeah.
hopefully getting them into the Gar Hole to play.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
I need that job.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I like
It
to go
doesn't
to
pay
Steam-
very
have you-
well,
Have you
though.
been to, yeah. Have you been to Steamboat?
I've
For that
not had
fest?
the opportunity. One of us has to stay and run the Gar Hole.
Right.
I would love to go there.
Yeah. That looks like an awesome festival.
But he's been a huge fan. I've known him for a long, long time. He was one of my assistant coaches
Okay.
back in the day when we were at Melissa together. But he's gone on now. He's an executive with a major corporation that still allows him to, help me with the
Moonlight
Gar
a
Hole.
bit.
Dabble.
Yeah, with what he loves, which is music.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, did Jack Ingram kick off your shows?
Our 1 year anniversary.
1 year. Okay.
Our 1 year anniversary was as the pandemic was about 9 months into it. It was just we'd been closed down like 3 times that year, and the state was putting all types of restrictions on us. They finally loosened things up a little bit.
It was a losing battle with Texans.
And so they gave us a little window there to do something kind of cool. And of course, Jack Ingram hadn't been able to do any shows, so we kind of got him at the pandemic price.
Yeah.
And we had a great night of music with Matt Hillier opened up for him, and
Cool.
then Jack played. And the cool thing, we called it our tribute to RL and Lois Adair,
Nice.
That's cool.
because that's where both of them got their starts. And so
Nice.
Lois was there at the show, and
Very cool.
we probably had 200 people showed up that night. And we had Jamie Lynn Wilson played the night before.
Cool.
So I doubt that we could get Jack Ingram back there again. He's won a Grammy in the meantime and has done really well. So, but he was a really good guy. When he found out Lois was going to be there, he was all in and did a great job.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Rattle off some of the artists that have come and gone and still play, and what we could expect
Well,
from a show at the Gar Hole.
number one on the list, I'll say this, and I don't think this will offend any other artist, but Walt Wilkins, who to me he's the godfather of all these Texas artists. Incredible songwriter, great person. He personally introduced Jet and me to artists like Jason Eady, Courtney Patton, Jamie Lynn Wilson, Drew Kennedy, Josh Grider. I can go down the list of of really good red dirt, Texas country artists. And I give him credit for, telling us about them. And then they in return, like Jamie Lynn told us about a guy named Ryan Colwell, who I think is awesome. He's played there a few times. Some other artists that have come through there. And then we love the local guys.
Yeah.
Given folks like Quentin Hope and his wife Chaz Marie, who are phenomenal artists. They play there all the time. The Hamlins, Adam McKinney, they play there quite often. Kendall Hunt and the Shooters, another really good band that play there all the time. So it's been a great chance to hear some good music and find some new folks.
Nice. That was exactly what I asked for. Right
Yeah,
there.
that was a very well answered question. You talk about Walt Wilkins, the guy that played my wedding, almost 20 years ago. His name was Ryan James, and he put out 2 albums and then has since called it quits. I believe he's a nurse in Houston now, but he and I were talking, and Walt Wilkins was his mentor. Walt wrote several songs for him, and he said the same thing. He was like, man, he's just a great guy, and I've never got a chance to see him. I'd like to go see him.
Well, you're missing out because no Walt show is the same. They're all different.
Really?
And because he takes every one of them seriously, treats them as one-off opportunities. He's a humble guy. He hates talking about money. Go, how much we need to pay you, Walt? And he'll go, we'll figure it out later. Well, but he's a person that loves music.
And he's most known for his writing.
Yeah,
correct?
he's a poet.
Yeah.
He's a great songwriter, but his shows, he's got a great voice, plays the guitar well. He was with Pat Green's band for a while and actually wrote songs about Texas.
Of course, that's how I know his name.
Yeah, because Pat
I
references
I
him.
know him recently, but that's how I was introduced to him.
Yeah, and Walt Wilkins up in Nashville,
Right.
When Pat sings that, everybody goes, well, who is Walt Wilkins? Well, you need to know. And when he sings Trains I've Missed, what a great song.
Yeah.
And so we love having him at the Gar Hole, not just for his shows, but he's in no hurry to leave.
No.
He visits with people. He sits around, talks, shares his heart.
Cool.
He's a great guy.
When he plays, is it usually just him and a guitar? Does he play with a band or?
He's one of those rare people that is just as good with just his guitar as he is with his band. He used to have a band called the Mystic Heroes, and was a lineup of lineups. I mean, Bill Small, Jimmy Daddy Davis, they were all in the band. Corby Schaub, you might know that Corby was Ryan Bingham's original lead guitar player.
Okay.
And but either way, Walt is just a great show.
Yeah.
If you see his name somewhere, check him out.
Yeah, mark that.
Yeah.
Right.
I will do that.
Go ahead. Go.
Go.
I'm giving you the floor, James.
No, so I feel like Ray Wiley Hubbard's just as good with his guitar as he is with a band or anything. So that was
I can remember seeing Ray Wiley Hubbard when he had long hair and a big cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And
He's one of my favorites.
when he was like, nothing like he is now.
Yeah.
But
he's a colorful artist. That's a charitable way to put
He
that.
seems like the perfect crossroads of the hippie cowboy you were speaking of earlier.
oh,
progressive
absolutely.
country.
Well, you've heard
yeah.
the story about how he rode up against the wall, Redneck Mothers.
I have not heard that story.
He was a hippie.
Right.
And they were,
There
he usually tells this story at his shows, but, he's a long-haired guy, and they send him to get beer, and he walks into this place to buy some beer, and it's all a bunch of rednecks.
Yeah.
You know, he's the long hair, and
Many such cases.
let me tell you, you guys at your age, you can't really understand what it was like back in those days to have a long hair
Right.
and to walk into one of those places and immediately feel like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
There was a mistake made.
This is not a good
can
situation.
You can have face tattoos and a split tongue, and they'll be like, "All right, cool. How you doing?"
Yeah.
So I'm very, very aware, you know, of what that was like and what had to be like for him in that situation. But
Sure.
it was a good song.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It served him well.
What do you have coming up this month? This is going to be out there forever, but just to give a little taste of what you got in April.
So today is April 4th, 2024.
Yeah.
So like I said, the
Putting you on
Sunday
the spot. I don't know if you know your.
the Sunday night shows we have coming up with ticketed shows for what I call regional artists: Jamie Lynn Wilson, Matt Hillier, Matt Skinner, Heather and Max Stalling are coming in. Drew Kennedy and Josh Crider. They call themselves the Topo Chico Cowboys when they play together. So they'll be coming in, and then, like I said, on Friday and Saturday nights we have local guys like Buzz Andrews' band.
Yep.
They're a crowd favorite. People love to
sure.
hear Buzz.
They play the old Leonard Picnic here.
Oh, and he's you know, he's an old coach like me.
Yeah.
You know, so he's the pole vault guru of North Texas.
Okay.
If you didn't know that about Buzz,
Takes his music to new heights.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, a variety of, like I said, local acts. Got a new band, Outlaw Country Band, that kind of got their start at the Gar Hole.
Yep.
Playing in the Pickin' Circle, and they're playing regularly now.
You're developing acts, and you might want to start thinking about a production studio back there.
You should, man.
He's thought about it. I can tell by that grin. He's definitely thought about it.
Well, another hero of mine was always Kent Finley and what he did at Cheatham Street back in the day.
Yeah.
And, man, look at the long line of artists that, you know, he gave them a Tuesday night.
So you're thinking live at Gar Hole.
Oh, I would love to do that.
So you want absolutely. Why isn't that happening?
Well,
That should happen.
So you need a Jack Ingram to do a live at the Gar Hole.
that
Is
would be
what you're talking
and
about.
I think we'll get there.
Yeah.
We've got some guys wanting to record.
I think you're there now. You got the relationship. You
that
know,
would be awesome, wouldn't it?
Miss Adair is still with us.
Well,
So,
our big
I mean-
focus right now, which is kind of has those things on hold, is we now have purchased the final building on our side of the block,
Gotcha.
and
You were telling me about this when we were there.
It'll double our space inside.
Oh, wow.
It will give us room for a bigger stage, a dance floor,
Cool.
much more room. We can double our capacity. When that happens, then we will have the seating capacity to do something like what you're talking about indoor.
Yeah.
And right now we're adding a fire suppression system, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It'll make it safer.
Eats up some capital, though, doesn't it?
It does. You know, it's we've been on a shoestring budget since the very beginning, but like I said, it's a good thing because it'll make it a safer venue.
Don't want any great white events going on. You know what I'm saying?
And then once we get that open, now that opens up the door for a lot of bigger and better opportunities. Yeah.
I didn't want to step on any plans or anything. If that's actually what you're thinking about.
I'm just firing from the hip
Yeah,
over here.
No, that's that right now. That's our total focus is continuing as we have been.
Yeah.
But with anticipation of that being open here in the next few months.
Yeah,
That's what
it
I
just
was about
struck
to
me
ask.
as that's very smart.
So
That's what I was about to ask. So the next few months,
we're
hopefully.
hoping. You know, once again, it's all about it's a safety issue. We want to do it right. Of course, you do have to have money to do these
Inspected
things
and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I'll say, you know, the county's been very fair and helpful trying to get us through this whole thing, and so we're working with them every week. And, So, like I said, hopefully by June,
nice.
we hope to have that new area opened up.
That's
Cool.
awesome.
That's exciting.
That's something to look forward to.
Yeah. So you've got your own line of clothes, and it makes its way around the world. You do a pretty good job of documenting that, by the way.
Well, you know, it just kind of took
Gar Hole
off.
sighting.
Somebody sent me a picture of them wearing a Gar Hole cap from somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I just
Malawi.
immediately, I put it on our website and our Facebook page, and then somebody saw that and sent me another one and then another. Now we've got literally hundreds
good content.
of pictures of people from India, England, Australia, all over America, all over South America with some kind of Gar Hole swag on.
Yeah.
And so We're working right now into developing an online store.
Cool.
So people can access it without having to come to the gar hole to get it.
Yep.
So it's been kind of neat to see that.
If we ever get our Siren on the Road stuff done, we'll have to wear some Garhole swag.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. You know, and we had another really cool show. We had a show with Roger Krager back in the first year, and he actually sent us a picture of him with his Garhole shirt on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
That's cool. Oh, a little
Sorry,
picture action.
just in case we forget.
Yeah. So yeah, and so get your Garhole gear. We got caps, T-shirts, hoodies. You know, and we're gonna expand it, koozies, things like that. You know,
Sure.
all part of the deal.
Where and how do you get tickets for your shows?
On our website,
Okay.
garhole.net.
Gotcha.
And just that'll also give you menu, our live event calendar, all that kind of stuff's there.
Cool.
Garhole.net.
Got any last words there, James?
No, we got some questions to ask.
Have we missed anything you want to talk about, Spider?
No, y'all done a good job. Y'all covered a lot of ground here.
I want to
We're
hear
right at 50.
the SMU story.
So which one?
It involves an explosive.
No, that was
cannon of
Austin
sort-
College.
Oh, that was Austin College?
Yeah,
I thought it was
that
SMU.
was at Austin College, the Cannon event.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a canon event.
This story actually was
Statute of limitations is probably up.
published in D Magazine last year.
We didn't bring that up. I apologize.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
meant
it's
to do it.
okay.
We talked about it. I meant to bring the D
I actually,
magazine up.
before we wrap this up, after your story, I want to lean into that a little bit because I have some questions.
Well, I'll just kind of
Yeah.
blend it all together. I got a phone call one day from someone that said they were an editor with D Magazine, and I immediately went, "Yeah, right." You know, they go, "No, someone gave me an article you wrote, and it was just the Lukenbach story,
Yeah.
that I posted on Facebook." And she said, "We're very interested in maybe publishing this story." And I'm like, "In D Magazine?" I was
That's
like,
awesome.
Are you kidding me? Growing up in Dallas,
Yeah.
of course I knew what that was, and so we talked over the phone. Well, then she and some other coworkers from D came and visited the Garhole, and they had such a fun time that they said, "Well, let's just make it a cover story." And so they sent a crew out, and they did a cover shoot, and they did an 8-page spread
That's
on
awesome.
us and some other cool beer joints around Texas. And then they do their yearly awards, and they named us the best roadhouse in Texas. Which,
That's awesome.
Hey,
so we
that's
got to go to a
awesome.
gala,
Yeah.
hang out with all the cool people. That was kind of interesting for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but anyway, out of that, she said, "Do you have any other stories?" And I go, "Man, I've been telling stories and writing stories since I was like in junior high. Yeah, I got tons of them." And so I sent her 2 or 3, and one of them was the Cannon story.
Yes.
And she immediately, not her, but the editor of D Magazine called me, Tim Rogers, and he said, "Man, how much of this is true?" I go, "It's all true. It happened." And he goes, "Well, we want to publish this." And basically the story was we were freshmen at Austin College, and it was me and 3 buddies, and we were your typical freshman goobers, sitting at lunch by ourselves, eating, and so
Let's light this candle.
and so one of the cheerleaders for Austin College was a really nice guy, and he would come by our table and talk to us and invite us to fraternity parties and stuff like that. Well, he approaches us like a couple of weeks into the school year and says, "Hey, I want y'all to come see something. I found this cannon." And it turns out he was getting all the cheerleader equipment out from under the old bleachers in the gym, and back in the back was this old cannon.
Naturally.
And he says, "Do you guys, you guys think you might want to fire this off at the game?" And
Yes.
of course, we're like, "Yes." We knew nothing about firing explosives, but we immediately grabbed it. We took it to a gun shop in Sherman.
Which I'll be honest is a step more than I probably would have.
Yeah. Well, the 3 other guys that were with me, they have a lot more intelligence and common sense than me. So they were like, so we took it down to the gun shop, and the guy looked it over. He goes, "Yeah," he goes, I remember they used to fire this at the games." He goes, "There's no cracks in the barrel, nothing." He goes, "Yeah, this is what you do. You put a little gunpowder down the barrel, you stuff it down with some toilet paper, and then light it, and it'll make a loud noise." And so he
His
sold
following
us,
words, but I didn't think they're serious.
yeah, so he sells us this big can of gunpowder, this big metal can of gunpowder,
Never
and a plunger, and we take it back. So it's like Thursday, and we go out to the football field, and we set this thing up. Nobody's around. It's a Thursday in Sherman.
Yeah.
And we followed his instructions, and man, it was so loud. Even though it's a small cannon, it's not very big, but it was so loud. So it scared us so much. We immediately grabbed it up and ran and hid it, and didn't tell anybody about it. Went down to a T-shirt shop, got some shirts made. Saturday, we're at the game. We set up in the end zone right behind the flagpole. I mean, we're like 10.
No authority
Nobody
figure
noticed
has-
the cannon.
We have not asked anybody for permission. Nobody said anything to us.
No, the cheerleader guy said we could do this. I don't know.
And so we are literally set up 10 feet behind the back of the end zone on the end of the stadium where everybody has to walk by to get to the bleachers. And they're walking by and they're like, who are those guys in those yellow shirts, you know? So we had these yellow
Firing
shirts.
crew.
And it said, we had printed on it, it takes iron balls to shoot cannons. So that was our T-shirt slogan. Of
course.
And so we're all fired up, you know, and we're four dumb freshmen. People are paying attention to us, so we're happy.
Yeah.
And they're waving at us, and we're waving back. So the game starts, and the first quarter's going along, you know, and we're excited to go, let's shoot it off at the end of the quarter. You know, there's not a lot of scoring going on, so we need to take an opportunity here to fire this thing. So we get it ready, and the quarter ends, and boom. And the crowd goes nuts, man.
You're like,
it was
we
so
have figured
loud.
it out.
It was so loud. So
Deaf.
they're screaming, and we're down in the end zone dancing and going crazy. And so the next thing I know, I look up, and the opponent at the time, which was Rhodes University, now it's it was Southwestern at Memphis, which is now Rhodes College, was punting to us. And right in front of us is another freshman named Willie Williams, he's one of the best athletes to ever go through AC. And at the time, he's leading the nation in punt returns. So Mark Freeman, there were four of us, Mark Freeman says, hey, what if Willie runs this back for a touchdown? We begin thinking, we got to be ready.
Yeah.
So Don Adams, another guy, he looks at him and he goes, well, don't we need to let this thing cool down first? And Greg Packwood, the third one, he said, yeah. He goes, this barrel's hot. And you know, we're all kind of scratching our heads, and I go, well, you know, in those pirate movies, they just load them right back up. So with you know, I guess I sounded like I knew what I was talking about.
They're like, good point.
Yeah.
So Mark picks up the cannon. He's pointing it toward Greg, who's standing in front of it with a cap full of gunpowder. I've got the plunger to one side. Don's on the other side. And we pour a cap full of gunpowder down a hot barrel. Now, you guys probably took chemistry. You know what
Explosion.
happened. Not only did it explode, but he was holding the open container
God.
of gunpowder, and it ignited the entire can and blew it up. And when it did, it blew Don, Greg, and me onto the end zone on fire.
Oh, my God.
At the same time, Rhodes punted the ball to us. So the ball's in the air, the cannon goes off.
You're now on fire.
Let's say you're on their coverage team. They're running down the field to cover the punt. They see three guys on fire blown into the end zone, and they're now running around the end zone trying to, you know, get the fire out. Willie catches the punt, runs it back 95 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah. This guy had
And
some
the
distracted
crowd-
defenders.
The crowd thought it was just a joke.
And you're like, yeah.
But the cheerleading friend of ours, he knew this was not in the script.
Wow.
So he runs down there, and, you know, we're rolling, and then we chase Greg down. We put him out. And, of course, the next thing we're at the hospital, you know, second-degree burns. You know, we lived.
Yeah.
We were so scared that we were going to get in trouble that we didn't make a big deal about it. If it happened today, we'd be millionaires.
Oh, my
We'd have
God.
sued somebody.
Yeah.
For
But,
letting you bring a cannon
we
in.
were just afraid, you know, we were going to get in trouble,
For
so we
letting
didn't
us
say
be
anything.
idiots.
And what's interesting is
That's wild.
we wound up tying the game because of Willie's.
That's funny.
So they kind of gave us credit for
Yeah.
helping out.
Yeah.
And the cheerleader that talked us into it was a guy named Ron Kirk, who you may know, he has a bridge named after him in Dallas. He went on to
Former
become,
mayor?
Yeah, mayor of
Are you
Dallas. He was
serious?
on Obama's cabinet.
That's
Oh,
funny.
wow.
So it was Ron that was the guy that talked us into doing it. So D Magazine loved that fact. You
It
know,
was
like, this is
probably-
so great.
That was probably buried in that inch-thick folder of violations.
It
Yeah.
may have been
Yeah,
in there,
yeah.
you're probably- but that's the canon story, and
That's pretty
we
wild.
survived it and went on to, you know, graduate from college and move on. Still friends.
And
to
some
this
of them
day.
are doctors.
Yeah. Don went on to
Right.
be an executive with Exxon. Mark's IT guy, high level. Greg owns his own business.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's great.
You might say their careers blew up.
Yep. We made quite an impact
Yeah.
on the campus that day.
Lit it up.
All right.
I've got some trivia questions. We can do 5 questions as well, but I've got some Garhole based trivia.
Okay.
Number 1 is, do you know where Claude, Texas is?
I do know where Claude, Texas. I have a sign of me, a picture of me in front of the sign.
I kind of thought you might have something like that.
Kind of like when we go through Hartley, Texas, I always take a picture.
Exactly.
On the way to
it's
skiing.
it's very close to each other, if I'm not
heading,
mistaken.
heading for the ski slopes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not
That's what
close, but it's on the same
I
route.
said the Colorado, New Mexico
Yep.
route.
Yep.
But for the record, where is it?
It's on West Texas on the road to Texline,
Yep.
which is the
Southeast Amarillo.
convenience store. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So
Basically 82, right?
Yeah,
It's right on 82.
Armstrong
Yeah.
County. Question number 2, where's Webb, Texas?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't
Where
either.
is Webb, Texas?
It is just north of Laredo.
Really?
And it's not like a big town, but it's like maybe a area or
Interesting.
something. Yeah. So WEBB,
Gotcha.
Texas. Question number 3, who is Peter Parker?
Spider-Man.
Yeah, you're correct.
Well,
I actually have like several hundred 60s era Spider-Man comics.
Really?
Yeah, that I bought when I was a kid.
Might
Cool.
fund that
I kept
expansion of the Garhole.
Well, I'm hanging
It's
on
true.
to them. I'm
It's
hanging
true.
on to them. I've got them in a box my mom kept in the attic. So
That's awesome.
Hmm.
yeah,
Good
big
luck.
Spider-Man fan.
Good luck with
Big
that.
Spider-Man fan. Yeah.
Question number 4, within 1 month, what date did Viva Terlingua release?
Well, it would have
Within
been
1 month.
It would have been 1972 or 3. So I'm trying to think.
Okay.
We saw Jerry Jeff in 74. So I'm thinking maybe August 73.
Close.
Final answer?
September?
You're within 2 months.
September 73.
November.
November,
Sorry, 3
November.
months.
That's pretty close, though. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
I'll give you that. Question number 5. How much did Hondo sell Lukenbach for?
That's a good question. I know we didn't pay very much for it when he bought it.
I didn't
Well,
do
yeah,
a whole.
can't
I didn't do
imagine.
a whole lot of research. It just popped up on suggested
Yeah.
questions. So
I bet he got a lot more for it than he paid for it.
I can't attest to that.
Because and if you haven't, his daughter Becky Crouch Patterson has a book about Hondo that's really good. You want to check it out. But what did he sell it for? I'm saying $1 million.
Yeah.
Well, it said 30,000 from what it says here.
Really?
But that, like I said, I didn't do a whole lot of research on that. It was just a suggested question.
Might have bought it for 30,000.
I bet he bought it for less.
Yeah, probably back then.
Yeah,
I mean,
back in the early
was
70s.
nothing there.
That was just pasture.
Bonus question: what does Lukenbach mean?
Lukenbach.
I
I just thought it was named after somebody that was
It's
a
just
family.
a last name. I
Yeah,
was just hoping you
that's what
might
I
know
thought,
something
yeah.
different.
Family
I
name.
couldn't find anything better than that, but yeah, it seemed like a family name.
All right, so those were bonus trivia questions. We like to end our interviews with just 5 questions that we pull out from a jar.
Okay.
I have pulled out 3.
Okay.
So my first question is, what was the last gift you gave someone?
The last gift that I gave someone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was recently my wife's birthday.
Oh, all right.
So she loves to read, so I gave her a subscription to Audible.
Ah, it's fantastic gift. I'm very proud of my Audible library. I've been an Audible member from way back. I love it.
As have I.
Yeah, you
I
have
love
been a long time.
Yeah, I think 2013. I think is when I got on
Long
there.
Time user.
Got like 1,000 books on there, which now makes me go, dang, that's a lot of money I spent though. Okay, Matthew, you got one?
Yeah, what is the name of the Wi-Fi at your home?
That's good.
Bet it's the Garhole.
Oh, you mean at the Garhole?
At your home.
Yeah.
At my house.
Yeah, at your home.
Is it just? Do you have a clever name for it, or
It's
It's
like
named after
is
our
it like-
dog Rocky.
it's probably like the World Wide Web.
No, it's actually our now deceased but awesome dog Rocky.
Okay.
It's
All right.
after, yeah.
Surfing the web.
most unusual thing you've ever eaten?
Well, since we lived in Africa
Yeah.
for 2 years, there was I would say fried flying ants,
Okay.
probably.
interesting.
They taste kind of like
Fried.
bacon bits.
Hey, that's not
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is you stand under a streetlight where the flying ants gather. at night, and you
The net-
catch them,
ah.
and then you have a pan of grease
Throw 'em in it.
hot, and you throw them in it, and they fry in like 2 seconds.
Wow. I'd probably eat that.
Fried flying ants.
Go for it, man.
Tastes like bacon when pigs fly.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were on a boat?
I was on a boat. I grew up on going to lakes, but I haven't been on a boat since I think we opened the gar hole because I haven't had time.
Yeah.
But I grew up on lakes and skiing and all the time. So, but
No ferries recently or
no, and I'm not a ship guy. That's my one
cruise or anything?
No. I'm not
Yep.
doing that. I'm
Understood.
not getting on a ship.
I was on a ferry in February in Seattle. All right. Last question. In your life, what are you most thankful for?
My family.
Solid answer.
Everybody says family.
Yeah. Solid.
Just kidding. Yeah. Do you have any questions for us? Anything we missed? You
No, I
want
appreciate you guys.
to
I
promote anything or?
appreciate what you guys are doing
Yeah,
and,
no
and
problem.
trying to promote.
We enjoy it. We enjoy it. Thank you.
So we've got Wednesdays pick and circle. We
Mhm.
got Thursdays song swap. Friday, Saturday night ticketed bands.
No live bands, no cover.
Live bands,
Come
no
have
cover.
fun.
That's important.
Come and have fun.
On ticketed nights, do you do partial ticketed and partial kind of bar, sit down, eat, and no ticket?
no,
Is it split or is it?
yes.
all ticketed? That's it.
Typically, we'll have the show. If it's indoor, we leave the patio open for those that just want to come and eat.
Okay.
If it's outdoor, we leave the indoor area for those that just want to come and
Important to note that.
yeah.
Friday, Saturday, free, no
No
cover,
covers
live music. Sunday acoustic jam.
at noon. Yeah, so bring your
At
guitar
noon.
if you want to come. It's kind of like Lugenbach Pick and Circle.
There you
Very
go.
cool.
For all you people cruising the rural roads and areas around Westminster / Anna 121 area, hit up the Gar Hole. Claude, Spider Webb, thank you, sir,
Thanks for having me.
for coming in here. It's
appreciate
been
it,
fun.
guys.
We glad we got around to this. Y'all enjoy. Go check out the Gar Hole.
Thanks.
See you, everybody.